Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel. And today we have with us another special guest. His name is Zach Ballinger. Now, Zach is in the ophthalmology space. He's a marketing director, and he had his beginnings in the pharma industry and up into the ophthalmology space. Now, that is the space that I have not had on this show yet. So I'm excited to bring Zach to talk about it. It's going to be a treat for all of you that might be wanting to get into a unique space within medical sales. And for those of you that are in medical sales that have thought about different specialties, this is definitely an episode you want to tune into. So as always, we do our best to bring you innovative guests that bring you insight into the medical sales industry. And thank you for listening to this show. I really hope you enjoy this interview. Hey, Zach, how are we doing today?
Hey, Samuel, how are you?
No complaints. Okay, so why don't you show the audience who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Zach Ballinger. I'm a market development director for an ophthalmology pharmaceutical company. I also am an author, a speaker, and also do the same thing you do. I run a podcast.
Fantastic. So let's talk about that. Ophthalmology. I think that's a space that I haven't had much on the show. So I'm really excited to have you on the show today. Why don't you tell everybody exactly what ophthalmology medical sales is?
Yeah, it's eye care specialists. Obviously, there's a lot of different components of the eye, but that's what makes it unique. We think of the eye as being really small, but there's a lot of sales forces out there. So you think about glaucoma, there's retina. So that's the back of the eye, the anterior chamber, cataracts, there's contact lenses, there's equipment sales. So there's multifold, the pharmaceutical products. So anything you can think of in primary care or your other specialty fields, there are a lot of careers in ophthalmology that maybe we don't know about or haven't heard of just because we don't know the anatomy of the eye, but there's plenty of different opportunities out there.
Absolutely. So with ophthalmology, is a specialty type of sales? So is general pharma kind of expected in the career track to get into an ophthalmology role? Or can you be someone from a different industry or new to the workforce and get into an ophthalmology role?
That's a great question. So typically, if we're talking about a pharmaceutical sales physician or a medical device, or you're going into the OR to sell cataracts to physicians, typically they do want you to have sales experience, and that's a pharmaceutical background, a medical device background, hospital background. So it's more of a specialty position, they call it. And so there's primary care, which your general HCPs and all that. But then typically they're looking for you to have some type of experience within any particular role. Now, it doesn't just have to be ophthalmology. Now, there's certainly companies that would like and require you to have ophthalmology sales experience, but there's plenty of them out there that do not, and you can get your foot in the door with them.
Excellent. And with ophthalmologists, I like to say every specialist has their traits that makes them a little bit unique. When it comes to ophthalmologists, what's the typical setup? Very busy, very little time, or more time than usual? Private practice mostly, or medical groups? Give us a little background on the makeup of the ophthalmologist.
Ophthalmology is similar to dermatology. It's a wonderful specialty to call on. There's not that many reps. They typically do love to talk to industry colleagues. There's a lot of partnership behind the scenes, whether it's medical trials, clinical trials, or maybe even support of their conferences. They're a very conference-oriented group. There's literally like a conference every week involving ophthalmology, some type of that. So they're both. They're community-based and they're at academic institutions. They love to talk to reps. They like to learn about new products. They're very business-oriented as well. So if something can help their practice, not only for their patients, but also a way to grow their practice, they're interested in speaking with you. They love to teach. That's what I love about ophthalmologists. If you want to spend a day with them at a clinical preceptorship, they're more than happy to. You don't even have to know them that well. But let's say you're just a pharmaceutical rep. A lot of them will invite you into surgery to teach you their surgical techniques and everything about the eye. So they love to teach, and that's why I kind of enjoy talking to them, because I've always loved to learn from teachers, and they have that passion. competition.
Right. Wow. Okay. So that's a good insight there with ophthalmologists. Let's take it back then to why you got into the ophthalmology space. Take us back to college. Was it you knew about the medical sales rep space and you knew you were going to be that was your destiny, or is something you stumbled on, or what was happening coming out of college?
Absolutely not. I had no idea what I wanted to do in college. I didn't even know what I wanted to do in college when I finished my degree. So I kind of stumbled through different business functions. I tried accounting. I took one class and was like, no way. I passed through logistics. There was a lot of different functions. And finally, the last one was marketing. And so that's what I got my degree in at the University of Tennessee. To be honest with you, Samuel, I got in the industry for the money. That was the main reason I got into it. It took me 250 jobs, 250 job interviews with over 50 companies before I actually landed into my pharmaceutical job. So I probably should have met you a little bit sooner. That. And I love doing sales, but I wanted to involve my career and use my strengths and my talents and my passions. I often call my strengths and talents your passions, what you're good at and what you like to do. And you kind of mesh them and then fold that into a career. So although I did love the selling aspect of it, I kind of fell into it for the financial reasons. And now I'm here today and I actually love what I do. Absolutely love it.
So you fell into it. How many years out of college did you fall into ophthalmology?
So, I started out as it took me a year to get in the pharmaceutical industry. So I did business to business sales. I sold grass seed for a year. And then I got into the industry and I went through multiple specialties. So I started in primary care and I was blessed to actually do 50% primary care and 50% specialty for 2 years. That launched me into another primary care position, launched me into another specialty. So I did a lot before I even got to ophthalmology. So I was in the industry probably about 10 to 12 years before I even started in ophthalmics.
So what okay, but what happened though? I mean, did you say, you know what, now that I've had this experience, I'm going to go for an ophthalmology role? Or did someone come to you, or did you find something, that a drug or a device that you said, oh, I really want to get behind that? What made you say ophthalmology? I mean, there's a lot of options out there. Why that one?
Great question. So it was a relocation, number one, for me. I wanted to get to Atlanta, Georgia. I wanted to live in a little bit bigger of a city. So I was in Knoxville, Tennessee at the time, and I was looking around at other opportunities. And Samuel, what I do when I go for a job, and especially in pharmaceutical sales, I want to interview the customers. And so that involves me taking some money out of my pocket, bringing in some cookies to offices and talking to physicians. I went to about 5 different offices and I networked my way into those. I met a colleague that used to be a Bausch and Lomb rep. He took me to talk to some of these ophthalmologists right in the city, and I got to interview them. And I talked to them about the products that I would be selling. And I got to talk to them, what's the advantages, what's the disadvantages. And I wrote all that down. And by the end of the day, I was excited about the opportunity. And it not only does it prepare you for the job interview, it either says, do I want to do this? And obviously, after I spent some time with ophthalmologists and the staff, I wanted to do it and I wanted to go into that sales role. But then that information is valuable to the interviewer. They look at that as, wow, you did all this on your own, and it really sets you apart from your competition.
Absolutely. Okay, so you're an ophthalmology territory manager or account manager, and something happened that took you into marketing. What was it? A moment? Was it your eye was set on it from the beginning? Did somebody bring it to your attention? Give us a story there.
Yeah, I started to get burnout in sales. And I think as we get older or things happen, we learn what we're good at in our career. We learn our weaknesses, obviously, too. And so I had been doing sales for a long time and I was ready for the next moment. And so a different company had an opening and I actually knew some people that were going over there. It would be a new role. It would be a marketing role. It would be a developmental role. And everything that kind of lined up when you looked at the job description, it really fit my skill set. And so that's what made me attracted towards it. I wanted to make sure the job description, and obviously I knew the hiring manager because, when we're doing this, networking is the most important aspect. And so I was able to have honest conversations with her about the role. Well, what would I be doing exactly? How could my strengths help the team? What would be some of the challenges for me coming in, being only an account manager or sales experience? What could I bring to the table? And so I think that's kind of what ended up happening is a role became open and I kind of aligned it and made the move.
Got it. So when you were thinking through that, I'm just curious, what did you conclude on as far as bringing to the table, being in sales, and bringing your expertise to marketing?
What I could bring, coming from the sales and account manager side, I could bring customer perspective. A lot of times what happens, and it happens to me too, when you start working on brand and strategy and tactics, and when you get to high level stuff and you're talking about that, you often lose sometimes the physician connection. Salespeople are on the ground. They're the ones that keep the lights on for the company. I was close to the customers. I knew the market. I knew the physicians. You have the relationships. You have the networking ability. You have the cold calling skills. You have the communication skills to bring to the table. So there's a lot of perspective, a lot of nuances that I can bring because I talk to those physicians on a daily basis, and I can bring back their opinions, their ideas right to the marketing team to develop the strategies.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So you're a marketing manager now. What does that role entail? What were your responsibilities? Paint the picture of what that role looks like.
Yeah, so I'm currently a market development director. It's a part of a marketing team. And when you think about it, I'm field-based, remote. So I travel all around the United States. I work with residents and fellows in ophthalmology. So remember that passion of teaching, that's what I really enjoy. So I get to teach residents and fellows about our commercialized product. We have one currently. I work with residents and fellows. And then I also work with key opinion leaders. And key opinion leaders, all that means is those are the top physicians in the market that influence everybody else. And so I work with them. I talk to them about strategies and tactics, what's good about our product, which patients does it help. Then I funnel all that information and I work with my main marketing director, and we talk about what do we need to do on a branding side? What kind of medical conferences do we need to support? I run our advisory board. So that's gathering clinic physician feedback to help us with our branding, our messaging, and we ultimately give the tools, those pieces, that materials, those videos to the sales force to promotion. And so that's kind of the role in a nutshell. The role is so fun because I do so many different aspects of it. I might be at an academic institute presenting on a product. I love presenting. And so I talk about our commercial product in front of the whole academic institution. So it's a multifold. If you have to love to travel to do field-based marketing, and I certainly do love that aspect of it. I don't sit still very well. This is probably the first time I've sat still all day. And so this can kind of really align with that.
Got it. So what I'm curious about is you came up with your value proposition to go from sales to marketing and all the skill sets you're bringing to marketing. Now you've been in marketing and you've gotten that thorough experience of what it means to be a marketing manager and a marketing director. What's your insight now? What do you see differently? If you were to go back to being a sales rep, or if you were to tell a sales rep, give them some advice coming from a marketing perspective, what would you share?
I give that perspective all the time because obviously sales and marketing work hand in hand. So we're providing those tools to our directors. So I'm in constant communication with them. I talk to the reps on a daily basis. And so I do try to help and facilitate them. One of the things that's really taught me in this role and how effective I could be is remember when I told you that I went into it for the money? I didn't really focus on patient types when I was a rep. If you pull it back towards the patient, I thought that was always cliche. Oh, make it about the patient. Oh, yeah, right. If you honestly make it about the patient, paint the patient picture. You talk about that patient suffering. You talk about that potential patient going blind because they don't get the particular regimen. That means a lot. Yeah. So I would say when you're talking to physicians, if you really put that patient perspective in mind in the beginning, that would really, really help you. Also leveraging networking. What do we talk about on a daily basis, Samuel, for people to break in the industry, for people to get into the careers? We talk about networking. Guess what? It's the same way in the specialty. These are very small subspecialty physicians. National KOLs, they matter. So if they're using your product and they've had good patient success, you have to leverage that. You have to be able to network in those physicians by maybe using a speaker program or a peer-to-peer or an expert connect. So that's what I would say. Use your resources. I didn't always use my resources when I was a rep. I kind of thought, well, I know it all. I can talk about what I can do, but I didn't always pull those resources into making me the top rep.
Gotcha. So, okay. So I want to go back to the patient types, for example. So the patient types. So, what did you experience as a marketer that made you say, wow, now that I'm on this side, man, I really should have been more to my patient types. And I want to advise any other reps to pay attention to that more. What was happening there that made you say that?
Three things: advisory boards. So when you talk to the physicians and you pull them back behind the curtain and you give them concepts, or you say, what about this product? How should we market it? How should we promote it? How should our reps be promoting it? And they say during those advisory boards, they always pull it back to the patient. These are the patient types you need to work on. These are the patient profiles you should draw up. These are the patient profiles you should talk about. Number two is actually designing some of these campaigns. I had never worked on interviewing a patient before that had a drug. It's life-changing. When they talk about their journey, and there was a few years ago where I was working with a particular patient and she talked about being able to not see her grandchildren because she was, was intimidated by her own sight. So it starts to add up these things and they start to click in your mind. And I'd say the third thing is when you get out in the community and you start seeing the patients and you're sitting in that office and they've got, they've been through these horrible surgeries. They've been on all these different therapies that are not working. It clicks in your mind, oh my goodness, this is actually a product that can help patients. So those three things.
So patient types and resources are the two things you would have emphasized to your old self. If you could talk to your sales rep self.
I would, and I never did that. I never utilized my resources at my advantage.
That makes sense. Okay, so you've had a great career, and you've gotten to really get into the heart of ophthalmology and what it means to be an ophthalmology rep. Tell us how you make it all work. Family life. Are you a dad? Are you just you and your wife making life happen? How do you have time? How do you make it all work?
So I'm actually single. And I don't have any kids because I could barely keep alive a plant right now. I'm gone pretty much 5 to 6 days a week. I think that's a sacrifice you make when you are in field marketing and you have the whole United States as your responsibility. You're talking about a lot of responsibility. You're talking about juggling a busy schedule. But Samuel, I love my life. And that's what the most important thing is. And what I do to keep it in balance, I always have this motto. It's not work-life balance. I get a lot of pushback for that. It's work-life passion. Do you love what you do? Do you love waking up in the morning? Do you love your Mondays? Or are you saying, oh God, it's Monday, thank God it's Friday? And I want to get out of that mindset. I love living my life. And so what I do is during these travel things, I've gotten to tie in a lot of cool things with it. Maybe taking an extra day out, maybe carving out some time to go visit that museum that I've wanted to do, put some adventure in it. So I think when you tie in your skills and your passions, they kind of align to your job if you get it right.
So give us a daily routine. What's your daily routine?
I'm going to give you the same cliche. It changes every day. And so no day is a different day, but typically let's go for this. So, we're up in the morning. I usually typically have an early flight out. So usually you're up at 5 or 6, you're in the airport getting through security. You might go to Sky Lounge. You might catch up on some emails with physicians. You're talking about to your other team about strategies. You're having conference calls. You're meeting with physicians during the day to talk to them about some of your programs, some of the relationships I have. We get together. We have maybe a lunch or a breakfast or a coffee. I may be meeting the fellows that night to be talking about my product. Fellows are typically a 2-year rotation and fellowship when they go on to a subspecialty. And so I might have dinner with them that night. We conclude it and wrap it up. I go back to my hotel room and then it's back to emails. And so I make sure my schedule's right. So it's a full day. There's no 9 to 5 here. There's always, you're going to work whatever hours you can. Now, during that time, there may be physicians that call me and have questions about our product, or they have questions about a speaking program, or they may have questions about that. So I field those calls a day. So it could really change every day. But if we talk about a typical day, that's probably what it most looks like.
Okay. And that makes me want to ask another question. So with ophthalmology, you said it's not a 9 to 5. What should somebody that wants to get into that space expect as far as working hours?
Yeah, when you talk about surgery, a lot of people that want to get in the career they're interested in the surgery aspect, being in the OR. You should expect to be waking up about 4:30 in the morning, because guess what time ophthalmologists start cases? Typically 6, 7 a.m. in the morning. So if you don't like getting up early and you don't like being in the OR, that might not be a career for you, because you're going to be in there from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then guess what? After you're done with that, you're probably going to be making some other calls on physicians during during their clinic. Now, most of your time as a surgical rep will obviously be in the OR, so you're going to have a lot of days like this. So you got to be prepared. You have to actually love and enjoy surgery. Now, if you're on the pharma side, that typically starts with just like any other pharmaceutical job. You get up in the morning, you're going to have a complete day, and you may spend 2 hours in one office, because in ophthalmology, it's a lot about educating the staff on your product, how it gets reimbursed, how it gets paid for. So you have to work with technicians. You have to talk to technicians about patient profiles. They have scribes, receptionists. You make the total office call, you get to know everybody, and they really they're in that office all day long. So they see the patients when you're not there. And so a lot of them will have more interaction with the patient than the physician will. And so you have to remember that. So I don't think there's even a standard answer for the pharmaceutical job. There's a time that you may have to do a pharmacy call. A pharmacy may start switching out your products for generics, and you may have to have a confrontation with them and say, hey, Dr. So-and-so wants this particular drop or this particular drug. What's going on here? So there's a lot of factors into it, but I would say these jobs are typically not 9-to-5 jobs.
Sure. All right. Well, what last bit of advice, if any, would you like to share with the audience? Remember, our audience, people that want to get in, people that are already in, and people that are leading the way.
People getting in, networking. That's the key. You have to have a contact. You have to build your network. You must have a LinkedIn nowadays, I think. I think it's very, very important to do that. LinkedIn is the future. There's tons of jobs on there. I think it became actually one of the #1 postings for jobs. But before you apply, you have to have a contact. And even for people with experience, I tell them all the time, you can't just blindly apply. We get applications. I interview sales reps. We get 200 applications for one job. So if we don't know who these people are, then how are we ever going to pull them to the top of the line? So I would say that for somebody that wants to excel in your career, I would think about, what are you good at? What are your strengths? And really hone in on them. A lot of managers might point out, well, this is where you're weak. We all know our weaknesses, and we can work on them to improve. But if you don't really like presenting, and you could work on being a better presenter, but you still hate it, what's the sense of it? And so focus on your strength. Maybe your real strength is clinical data, and you have a passion for that. Focus in on that. Use that clinical strength. And then the third thing, use all your resources to your advantage. Make sure you're maxing out your resources, your budgets, your lunch money, your speaker programs, your peer-to-peer influences. Those things can really make a difference.
Got it. Okay. Well, now it's time for our lightning round, Zach. So be ready. You have less than 10 seconds to answer each question, and then we're going to wrap it up for today. So,
Gotcha.
best book you've read in the last 6 months?
Last book I read was mine. Don't Be a Zombie: How to Find a Career You Love.
Your book.
Yes.
Okay. You all heard that, and that will be in the show notes for you to download. So Zach's book. Say it one more time, Zach.
Don't Be a Zombie: How to Find a Career You Love.
Love it. And then best movie in the last 6 months or show?
Well, Breaking Bad.
Oh man, that's my all-time favorite show.
Mine too.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay. Best meal in the last 6 months?
Oh God, that's one of the perks of the job. Probably San Antonio at a steakhouse, but I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me.
Oh, you're killing us. You're gonna tell us that, not give us the name. Ouch. Okay. That might also be in the show notes, folks. And then best experience in the last 6 months.
Best experience in the last 6 months. I would say visiting New Mexico and got to do some hiking and got to see the taverns, the Carlsbad taverns. It was amazing and beautiful sight.
Sounds amazing. Fantastic. Well, Zach, it was wonderful having you as a guest today. And thank you for sharing all those insights regarding ophthalmology. We look to be hearing from you and seeing all your future pursuits. And thank you for being on the Medical Sales Podcast.
Hey, thanks for all you do.
Absolutely. Zach Ballinger in the ophthalmology space. Very interesting space. And I even like that he had some insight into what it's like to work with ophthalmologists. And even to know that this is an industry that can be friendly to people that are just starting. It's an exciting thing to keep in mind, and an exciting opportunity for all of you out there that have been thinking about other roles you want to explore. Ophthalmology is definitely a space to consider. So maybe listening to the episode and you're thinking to yourself, you know what? I want to get into an ophthalmology role, or I definitely want that to be a part of my future. Well, if you listen to this episodes at any time, you already know what I'm going to say. You need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com and select Attain Medical Sales Role, submit the application, and then have a conversation about our program, the Medical Sales Career Builder. It's where we can help you get a position within 90 days. We work with medical sales reps. We work with medical sales hiring managers. We work with recruiters. And we have a whole program designed to get you to the finish line, get you an offer, and get you into a position. So make sure you check it out, evolveyoursuccess.com. Select Attain Medical Sales Role. And for those of you that are in the industry, you heard this and you're thinking to yourself, I want to make that kind of transition. But it's been a long time since I've ever been on an interview. It's been a long time since I've even looked at my resume. Heck, I don't even know when I last updated my career portfolio. Well then, again, visit evolveyoursuccess.com and you also select Attain Medical Sales Role and have a conversation with us, and we can help you make that transition if you're exploring a new space. As always, we do our best to bring you guests that are innovative. They're doing things a little differently. They're in unique spaces within medical sales, and they have a lot of insight to bring. So make sure you tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive-level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.